Hi guys, this is Mike back with another Python Django tutorial for you, and this time we're going to take a look at how to deal with multiple model forms and in bringing information from forms into more than one model on the same page. And this is something that a lot of the guys who have been learning in the past have asked for, so here goes. Now, the first step really is that it's a rare situation that you need to do this sort of thing, and the example I came up with is in the case of a forum where, for instance, you create a thread and you usually give it a title, but then you're asked to also stick a comment in there at the same time. So how would you deal with that? Because you've obviously got a thread to create in the database, and at the same time you've got the comment to store all in one fell swoop. Well, this should give you a simple idea of how to do that, and also give you an introduction into other situations where you might have to do this rare situation where you're having to get information from more than one model at the same time. So here it goes. The first thing we have to establish is that we need models, and the two models that I came up with this for this example are basically the thread model, which just has a title, which is just a character field, and then a post, and the posts will be going into the thread, and that basically has a content variable in there, which is basically whatever they put in the text field. And it's very simplified, because in a normal forum you'd probably have various little things like you'd want to stick some kind of alert icon on there when it displays. You might want to attach stuff or all sorts, but in this case we're just doing a simplified version, and we're going to stick with just the text that you would stick in a post. And the other variable we've got here is just to relate this post back to the thread. So we have one thread, which we use a foreign key to create a one-to-many relationship with. So we've got one thread can have many posts, and that's as simple as it goes. As for the forms, we're building on what we learned previously in the free series about how to do model forms, and we're just basically creating two model forms, a post form and a thread form. Now, just the bog standard ones that you would do normally, except for this extra part that we've put into the post form, which is the field section. Now, we've only put the word content in there, but as you remember, in our models we've got a thread variable. If we left that in, we'd end up getting a drop down selection box on the form that would then help us to select the thread that this post would be part of. But in the case of our situation, we're actually going to create a new thread with a post actually attached to it, so the thread that we're looking for wouldn't actually exist in the selection box. So we're going to basically tell Django not to bother showing that thread selection box and just show the content box only. Okay, so what we've got then in our views, and I'll just open those up. In our template we've got a new thread template. I'm not going to go into the detail of all these other ones because they're just basically creating tables and to display these pages, which isn't really contributing to what we're covering. But in the new thread template that we're going to use, we're going to basically create a form. And if I just zoom that in a bit, let's see if I can get that a bit larger. Yeah, our form action basically posts back to the new thread view inside of our views.py. We haven't actually written that yet, so I'll have to come back to that shortly, and we'll go through the business logic that goes on there, which is the most important thing. But we need to set this up so we can know what's happening. So inside of there we put our obligatory CSRF token, and then we put in our two forms. Now, if you've seen it in the past when I've done forms, I've usually done something like that, where you have the braces, and then just the form inside of there. This extra thing is a template tag from the Django Bootstrap form library, and I basically just incorporated that into the project, downloaded the module using pip, and then included it as an app in the settings, and then loaded in Bootstrap from here, and here I can use it as a template. And what that'll do is it'll take whatever this form object outputs as HTML and wrap it in Bootstrap compatible HTML and CSS, so that it just displays nice along with our bootstrapped design here. So just a basic bit of decoration to make it look pretty. And the same for the post form. So we've got two of these forms. So we're going to create an instance of post form and an instance of thread form to put inside of this template to be rendered. And then when it posts back, it will post both of the sets of fields that these two forms have actually created back in the post dict. So that's the simplest part of it. How do we actually deal with the information once we've got it back to the server and somebody clicks that button to say create the new thread? Well, basically we create ourselves a new handler. So I'm going to have a new thread URL, which is what the form actually points back to, just here. And in there we're going to go, if the request method is equal to post, then we're going to do something with that post, or else we're just going to set up that new thread view so that we can actually get the information off the user. So the next step is we're going to create, if it's not a post method, we're going to create the thread form, which is just going to be an instance of that thread form that we've defined inside of the forms.py file. And the same for the post form. So it's a blank unpopulated version of the form to go in there. As in other tutorials, we create an arguments dict, and then we basically update that with the CSRF request. So next we create our thread form instance inside the arguments to pass through to the view to be rendered, and then also a post form instance as well, and then finally return the rendered version of the new HTML template with its arguments inside of there. And that's what we do just to set up the view to take the information. But when it's posted back, we then start to deal with the logic of things, and this is where it gets interesting. What isn't obvious is that when you create a form and you pull in the request post, which you'll have seen in previous tutorials, you can also do that twice with a different form. And these forms are smart enough to go through the form that's posted back and pick out the fields that are relevant to them, and it will populate each of these different forms with the right information. So it only leaves you to then validate both of those forms in that if statement instead of just one form. And then in this case we're going to save the thread, and then that'll pass back an instance of a thread or a forum thread, and then this time we'll save the post form, but this time save false. Now what that does is it tells it to collect everything together in an instance of a post, but don't fully save it just yet. And the reason why we're not doing that is because we still haven't set up the relationship between the thread and the post. So to do that, we quickly go post.thread equals this instance of the thread, and then save it. So then at this point we've saved our thread, then we've gotten an instance of post that's populated with the information we've pulled off the form, then we've created the relationship between the thread and the actual instance of the thread and saved that too. So we've got both the thread and the post saved in the database now. And then finally all we're just basically doing is redirecting through to our main threads page, which is just going to show us a list of that. So let's see that in action. Just make sure my web server's up and running. Yep, we're good to go. So we should then see, let's do a title, my thread 1, and some text. I don't know, let's just make up some like that. If we click create thread, it passes us back through to here. So in the process of actually clicking that post, it's gone through that code, brought in both sections of the form that we filled in, and populated them both into these different forms that we've defined according to the models. And so if we click this link and go through to the view thread section, we can now see that it knows the title of the thread, but it also pulls out the information from there. If we quickly look at that, we can see there that we've got the thread title out, but then we've gone for every post in the posts thread set, put out a row that puts out the content inside of there. So the relationship is already established between those two, and we've pulled it all in one page and in one fell swoop. Okay, so that's the end of this tutorial. I hope you found that informative, and if you did, then great. If not, give me an email and I'll do my best to help you to get your head around it. Thanks for watching.